Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Stinchfield tonight. We have a packed show for you, of course, focusing on what is shaping up to be a 4-year battle against the liberal tide if the president doesn't make it. We're still hopeful he will, though. We're joined by former vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin. America stands on a razor's edge, and she will tell us how we pull this nation back from the precipice. We'll also be doing our daily check on the state of Georgia, where the fate of the United States Senate and the country hangs in the balance. You will not believe the radicals headed to the Peach State to campaign for their fellow radicals there. And in Michigan, one of the lawmakers barred from entrance into the Capitol joins us to tell us firsthand how Democrats in swing states continue to break election laws. And we're joined by one of the heroes in Benghazi, who is giving back to those fellow warriors who operate in the shadows across the globe. Mark Osgeist is with us to profile his Shadow Warrior project. So as I mentioned, America is in a precarious position. As I watch 2020 come to an end, I feel like I'm watching the nation that I love crumble before my eyes. For the first time in decades, we have a president who governs in the best interest of the people. A president who made it his mission to put you in control. But half of America can't handle being in control. They long for government to not just direct their every move, but support them too. The Democrats trained them to be this way. You know, the reason Iraq and Afghanistan could never fully handle democracy is because it takes exceptional people to make democracy work. People who embrace individualism, entrepreneurship, hard work, even risk for a greater future. The people of Iraq still long for the iron fist of Saddam Hussein. That is not exceptionalism. That's defeatism. I see it happening in America today. We now have half a nation so lazy they don't want success, unless, of course, it's handed to them, which by definition is impossible. They simply want handouts, and their leftist leaders are eager to comply. Listen to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez make promises to Georgia voters.
We win in Georgia, we can help transition this country to a $15 minimum wage. We can make sure that we expand people's access to health care. Shout out to my fellow radicals in the United States who believe crazy things like a full-time job should be enough for you to live.
I believe that she is crazy. You see what she's saying? We will pay you more no matter how hard you work. That doesn't breed exceptionalism, AOC. It breeds laziness. The Democrats exploited the Chinese virus to make people even lazier. It's how they want it. The government paid people more money to sit home than people made when they were working. That's insanity, but a fabulous ploy, right? If your goal is to make people more reliant on government. So as we now face a global pandemic, a possible future president 50% of America believes is illegitimate because he cheated to win, Antifa and BLM street thugs that in many cities have more control over the streets than police, judges who refuse to uphold the law, cowards for elected leaders, and a federal government on the verge of being taken over by socialists. Yes, you better believe we are in a perilous position. We are on the verge of losing this nation if we do not act. So I'm telling you, we must stand up and say enough. Those in government find it acceptable, even preferable, to demand we submit. And if we do not comply with their unconstitutional orders, Americans are being arrested. The country I love is being hijacked before our eyes.
Maybe you would start riding transit, maybe for a week, just to show that it's safe.
It is important to let people know the subways are safe. I like the idea, so I accept that good idea, and we'll figure out when the right time to do that is.
What an idiot. How about you open restaurants in New York and eat out every night to prove they are safe? Instead, the very fundamental value that makes America special, the right to own property. Property the government cannot just seize without just compensation. That is being destroyed, that right to own property. People's businesses have been seized and shuttered by the left's overreaching and oh so stifling regulations. Everything people worked for has been wiped out, not because of the virus, but because of the less extreme reaction to it. A business is property. You can't just take it, but that is what's happening. It is all part of their ultimate destruction of America, to break it down and rebuild it where government is in total control.
The integrity of our elections remains intact. And now it's time to turn the page, as we've done throughout our history, to unite, to heal.
Unite and heal. Joe Biden calls for unity as his party destroys America. He calls us names. He wants our guns. He concocted the scheme to persecute Michael Flynn, the great general. He compared President Trump to Hitler, and he overlooked and even encouraged the political violence we continue to witness across the country by Antifa and BLM thugs. Yes, America is in trouble. We are on the ropes, but not out. Our side is and always has been stronger, more courageous, and far more committed to freedom than the anti-freedom forces we are up against. And because of that, we will survive this barrage of tyranny, because that is what we do as Americans. We fight and we survive. Well, one of the greatest political fighters and survivors of all time joins us now, former vice presidential candidate and governor of Alaska, Sarah Palin. Governor, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Grant. That was outstanding. If that didn't make people want to rise up and say, go America, and let's get rid of the wackos who are absolutely ready to implement socialism and erode our rights, then I don't know what's going to motivate them.
Well, I'll tell you what, Governor, coming from you, that's humbling, because you are a motivating figure like no other. And so my question to you is, are you concerned, as I am, about the future of this country and where the other side wants to take us?
Well, remember, candidate Barack Obama had promised what was going to happen. He said he was ready to fundamentally transform America. You only fundamentally transform something for which you have disdain. You want to get rid of that thing, that entity, and you want to replace it with something unrecognizable. That's fundamental. So we were warned all those years ago. I think the biggest problem is that we don't have a referee in all of this. Used to be, of course, the mainstream media was the referee, the bulwark of democracy, supposed to be asking the questions about what was actually going on. And we see, of course, I mean, gosh, it almost goes without saying, we see the corruption and the unethical behavior within the media. Thus, we don't have a referee right now. And it's people like you, Grant, who are, man, just pulling yourselves up from the bootstraps and trying to get that message out there to let people know, really, Grant, there are more of us than there are of them. There are more hardworking, patriotic, ethical Americans who just want government off our backs, you know, get it back on our side. There are more of us than there are of them.
Yeah, and I truly believe that. And the reason we hear so much about them, of course, is because the mainstream media gives them a platform. But when you talk about where we're headed, I want to also talk about judges, because we have cowardice in this country. I see now judges afraid to do what's right. I see state legislators afraid to do what's right. And it put President Trump in a very terrible position this election. If the fraud evidence is true, and it proves to be true, he could have had this election stolen from him, Governor.
Yeah, absolutely. It's baffling what we see in terms of the lack of courage. And, you know, that's tragic for our country. We do see so many sheep just following those who I think are giving them the perception that things will be made easier for them if they'll just follow, these Democrat leaders like AOC, that clip that you just played of hers. Holy moly. Do people hear what she's saying? She's saying, anybody who's working hard, you're out there working, you shouldn't be living in poverty. And of course, people like me were saying, well, duh, AOC, then quit taking their money, those who are working so hard, and giving it to able-bodied people who are choosing not to work. The things that these Democrat leaders are saying today, they're so twisted. It's so Orwellian. Who would have thought that 1984, the book was going to be their playbook? we know what's going on. We have to talk more about the solutions, Grant. And part of the solution is an infiltration and an influence in pop culture. That's where common sense constitutional conservatives need to get in there and make a difference, because everything is downstream from pop culture, politics, the economy, the way things are marketed. We got to get back out there, not just preaching, to the choir and the four square walls. Get out there in pop culture and change it.
Yeah, absolutely. If we do that, I mean, they've been brilliant about weaponizing Hollywood and messaging for their side, and I think that's a brilliant idea. Governor Palin, I wish I had more time with you because I could do a whole show with you. It's my first interview, and I'm honored to have you on the program. I hope, please, will you come back for us?
Absolutely. You're going to do great. I'm so glad you're going to be in the week now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Governor. We'll see you again soon for sure. All right.